They say it only takes one person to inspire change. And for the Idaho technology industry, one of these people most certainly is George Mulhern. George began his career in technology at Hewlett-Packard. Over the course of his 20-year career at HP, George had responsibility for hardware, software, and service businesses that ranged in size from several $million to billions of dollars of annual revenue.
George was a product manager at HP when I was there, and got to know him pretty well for the contributions he made, and so I was very positively impressed with George's style of leadership. Really represented kind of the style of respecting people, of dealing with challenges aggressively, of really driving to win, but always doing so with this framework of being good for the community, being good for your employees, and I think he lived up to those.
He took his leadership style with him when he joined Cradlepoint in 2011, and it served him well as he worked with an exceptionally talented team to build the company into the global leader for enterprise cellular wide area networking. Over the course of 13 years, George and his team grew the company from 80 employees to 1,500 and reached hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue.
In the early days of Cradlepoint, George inherited a company that was a little bit of the wild, wild west. And George did a masterful job of building that team, bringing us all together, aligning on common goals. And I think the fact of how well we all worked together, respected each other, respected George, listened to George, believed in the mission is a huge part of how the company went from nearly closing its doors to surviving.
It wasn't an easy journey, but it was one that had widespread impact, not just on Cradlepoint, but on all of Idaho and its growing technology sector.
We probably, as a company, always had a little bit of a chip on our shoulder, because with what we were trying to do, everybody's like, yeah, you can't do that if you're not in the Silicon Valley. I think we took that as a challenge as a team. I think George took that personally because he's so invested in Boise and the community, and he'd seen what HP was able to do here, and he wanted to be able to do that again and lead Cradlepoint to that level. And I think we really did that and proved that to a point where becoming a worldwide leader is definitely something you can do in technology in Boise, and he had a huge part to play in that.
Though many things about Cradlepoint made it successful, one that stands out is the way George shaped the culture to be different from its Silicon Valley counterparts.
I think what I really found very interesting over at Cradlepoint, which is not a traditional Silicon Valley kind of a company, where you have CEOs who always are talking about how to kill the competition, how to decimate, how to leave the competition in its wake. And then you come to a company like Cradlepoint where the CEO is sitting with you, but his first words to me was, we want to do it the right way. We don't want to cut corners, and we don't want to leave bodies behind. I think that's the true culture of Cradlepoint that he built.
George went on to raise $170 million in venture capital, and in November of 2020, Cradlepoint was acquired by Ericsson for $1.1 billion. After the acquisition, he spent 3 years leading the Enterprise Wireless Solutions business unit for Ericsson before retiring in July of 2024, and leaving behind a legacy of excellent leadership and incredible accomplishments.
So I worked with George for 12 years as his assistant, and I got to know him as a business leader and also as a confidant, and working with George was the greatest experience of my career. He has been the best leader I've ever worked for.
In addition to his business pursuits, George also used his strong leadership skills to give back to his community. He was a member of McKinsey & Company's advisory board for their technology practice, spent 6 years on the board of directors for the Idaho Food Bank, and served on Idaho Governor Kempthorne's Science and Technology Advisory Council and Governor Little's Cybersecurity Task Force. He currently serves as an independent board of director for Cambia Health Solutions, Regions Blue Shield of Idaho, and Tracer, a Boise-based brand security startup, and is a proud member of the Idaho Technology Council Board. George and his wife Karen have 4 children between them and recently celebrated the arrival of their first grandchild. George has had an incredible impact on the Treasure Valley and Idaho. Not only did he revolutionize the technology industry in Boise, but he also paved the way for the future of the tech community.
I think, one of the real contributions that George has made with Cradlepoint is to really establish an example of what can happen in this community with technology. We see examples like Cradlepoint really serve a lot of young entrepreneurs and our community to be able to have a vision for what's possible.